Heavy Cardboard, Episode 10, La Granja. Coming to you from Denver headquarters of Essen 2014, welcome to Heavy Cardboard, where we talk medium-heavy strategy board games, war games, 18xx, and other related topics in the board gaming hobby. We're your host. I'm Edward.
I'm Tony. Episode 10. Double figures, baby.
Yeah, we made it. Rock on. Sweet. Why don't you tell them how to contact us?
Sure will. You can definitely find us on Twitter at Heavy Cardboard. Facebook page is Heavy Cardboard. Our email account, heavycardboard@gmail.com. And on the web at heavycardboard.com.
So how about them Cowboys again?
Oh, man.
Go into Seattle and smack that ass.
I was, I'm not a fan of the Cowboys, but I was super impressed, man. And in spite of them
was I.
giving the Seahawks 10 points on errors, and they still pulled that sucker out. And, I give Tony Romo a lot of grief, but him and Des Bryant.
That throw,
DeMarco Murray. Oh, my God.
That throw to Terrence Williams. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was. So nobody's more surprised about this than Cowboy fans, let me tell you. But, I mean, you could make the argument that maybe they're the best team in football right now.
Oh, God, no.
5-1, go into Seattle, beat Seattle, who nobody does that. Just saying.
They're looking really good, but I'm not ready to put that crown on them.
No.
Well, I
I'm
got
saying
two
they're
words
in the
for
argument.
you
Yeah, Denver Broncos.
Jason Garrett.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. No, or Jerry Jones.
Jerry
right?
Jones.
Yeah, I hear you.
They're looking good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's still early yet.
The funny thing is I expected the Cowboys to be atrocious this year and my Ducks to be a contender for the national championship. Well, my Ducks, I told you last episode, 22.5 points. I don't bet on Duck games, but if I were, I would have taken Arizona because I was worried about them just winning the game, and they laid an egg. The offensive line was a sieve, and they got blown up. Now that the offensive line's getting healthy, Jake Fisher's back. My Oregon Ducks go down to UCLA, whoop them down there. I just find it funny that the team I thought was going to be terrible is fantastic. The team I thought was going to be fantastic is they're healthy.
Yeah. Well, I have a similar situation in reverse. The team I thought was going to be good, the Colorado Avalanche, in their third game today, finally scored their first 2 goals of the year.
Oh, speaking of which, happy Columbus Day.
Thank you.
And
is it Merry Columbus Day?
Is it Merry? Happy?
Either way.
Yeah, I don't know. And happy Thanksgiving to all our friends in the Great White North, eh?
Right on. So let's rock and roll with episode 10.
All right, let's go.
What have your recent acquisitions been since last we met?
Well, you may or may not have heard, because I may have done a little bit of a humble brag on Twitter about acquiring Container for $50. Right place, right time.
I am awesomely pleased for you, man.
Yeah.
And for me, too.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you'll get to trick them out and,
Wait,
be able to play the game.
Will I get to paint your ships?
Yeah, absolutely. I see no problem.
Because, I just painted something for you.
This Kennedy thing is becoming a myth. For those that don't know, 1960, the making of the president, one player plays Nixon, one player plays Kennedy. Well, I got these 2 little, figures.
Yeah, they're about, 4 inches high? Yeah.
And one came...
Finely detailed plastic.
Oh, beautiful. You painted Nixon with the 5 o'clock shadow. Yeah. And about 14, maybe 15 years ago, I gave you Kennedy.
Weeks.
to touch up his dead eyes, and you keep talking about doing that.
Well, here he is, sir.
Oh, right.
Here's John F. Kennedy, buddy.
Oh, nice.
So,
I will take a picture and upload it.
Nice.
That's awesome, dude. Looks good.
I found a picture of him. He was wearing a dark gray suit and a dark gray tie. Really boring. Nixon was wearing a blue suit, so at least they have some color, but, Lord.
So anyway, getting back to this, right place, right time on Container. I'm subscribed to it on Board Game Geek for eBay and the marketplace.
Right.
It popped on my subscriptions. I just so happened to look at it, and $50. And I looked at it, and I'm like, wait, is something wrong?
Let me refresh this browser.
Yeah, and
that can't be right.
I'm looking. He says, no, it's in perfect condition. And I'm like, sold. Didn't ask questions, just sold.
Yeah.
And
That's arrived. A no-brainer if there ever was
arrived.
one.
It's in perfect condition.
Are the boats in fine shape?
Yeah.
Not cracked or
anything? There's a little tiny on one of the ships, but it's not a crack or anything. So
no, that could have been a manufacturing thing. Sometimes those resin models.
I think that's exactly what it was. So, but that's all I've acquired. However, I have gotten shipping notices on a ton of stuff.
Have you?
That since we have a little bit between this and our next episode, the games that I know will be here are Greenland, my Defenders of the Realm Kickstarter stuff, Zaya, Legend of a Drift System, Evolution, Blocks in Africa, and Panamax.
Nice.
Which that Panamax may be available for a contest? Possibly.
All right.
How about you? What have you acquired?
Several things.
Cool.
Endeavor.
I was going to say, I know one of them. That's cool.
I finally got Endeavor. I also got Machi Koro. I got the World Championship deck for Agricola.
Oh, nice.
It's 2011, whatever, but it's really cool concept. I got the expansion for Ado. I got Biblios. My copy of Panamax arrived.
Yeah, how does that work? You live like 7 minutes away, and you've gotten it like 4 days ago.
The UPS guy got lost. It arrived Saturday. And I acquired Merchants of the Middle Ages as well.
Cool. Which, doing some homework, because I know you're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Doing that seems like a pretty cool game. I'm excited to hear more about it.
Awesome. So, let's see. What have you been hunting, good sir?
Well, now that the equity loan is done for the house, I have disposable income.
Oh, you're off restriction.
Yes. Well, awesome. To a point. Let's not go nuts.
Let's not go crazy.
But it's the same 3 Martin Wallace games that have been on my list since basically the inception of me in hobby board gaming. God's Playground, After the Flood, Princes of the Renaissance. But there is one other that I thought was hard to get, and that's Daniel Berger's first game, Caesar's Gallic War.
Oh, yeah.
It's a block war game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really expensive and hard to find. Come to find out, Miniature Market has it on their clearance for $25.
Nice.
And they have like 20 plus copies available. So I would definitely, I'm anxious. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to go punch a ticket on that.
Right on.
How about you? If there's anything, well, I mean, now that you've cleared Endeavor off the decks.
I know. Really right now I'm just kind of waiting for Essen games.
That goes without saying, obviously, sure.
La Isla, Aquasphere, Ludwig and Villageport and, St. Petersburg 2nd edition. I had German Kickstartered that, and
Zango.
The Concordia map for Britannia and Germany, Germania, just things like that. I haven't almost acquired. I want to.
How do you almost acquire?
I don't know. Like, I almost bought something. And I was like, I started reading some comments, and watching what I could available and reading reviews. Patch history.
Funny you bring that up.
I said, you know what? I'm not buying it.
Really?
Yeah. It seems like, first of all, I love auctions.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have some serious auction talks here tonight. The auction's just basic. The gimmick is the patching.
Yeah, the covering.
Yeah. But it's too long for what it is the general consensus that I've read.
All right. So funny you bring up patch history, because last Saturday I went to a new game, or not a new game group, but new game group to me, because I knew you were busy. And Daniel Berger is part of that group, and Michelle, who hosts it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And a buddy of mine, Scott Burns, and a few other people. There were like 8 or 9 of us there. And they were playing patch history at the end of the night.
Were they?
And I was busy playing Panamax, so I didn't get a chance. But I saw it, and it looked cool.
Yeah.
And the way they track everything on this little like player board thing, it looked really cool.
Some of the patches even require your meeples.
It looks cool. I definitely want to try it.
Same. I'm willing to try it.
But I'm not jonesing to go out there and buy it. So I understand you're almost acquired.
Yeah. Okay.
So on that note, the whole playing thing, I mentioned that I was playing Panamax. I taught that to Michelle and Daniel.
Now, was it a 3-player or did Amanda play?
Oh, no, Amanda played as well. We had a 4-player. Even though I haven't played it for a few weeks, the teaching went really smoothly.
Sure.
I brushed up on the rules real quick. They picked it up quick. I mean, they're both war gamers, obviously.
Right.
And Michelle absolutely loved it.
Awesome. What about Mr. Berger?
Daniel, he appreciates the design. he didn't not like it. It's just not his type of game. The thing that you and I really enjoy in games, kind of that, I don't want to say mismatch, but he felt there were too many things going on, too many mechanics, and it was too hard to track, and it just wasn't his type of game.
That was code for I can't sink the ships. It's not a war game.
No, but he definitely appreciated it, and he seemed to enjoy it. Michelle and I ended up tied at the end of the game.
Really?
And she won on turn order, which is our most our most hated
rage
tiebreaker.
quit.
Yeah. So I looked at that and I was like, we're tied. And
Call it a tie.
And then I saw that she was actually up in turn order. I was like, oh, never mind, you won. Because I didn't want to take that from her.
No, that's cool.
But it was competitive, all four. It was a lot of fun. A couple other things I wanted to mention that I've been playing. Played City Hall again.
Yep. I played that with you.
Yes. I'll be honest. I don't dislike the game. Had I not played New Heimat previously, I would really enjoy City Hall more. But having played New Heimat, I prefer New Heimat. But that's not to say that City Hall's a bad game.
No, I agree with that statement completely. In fact, that I would prefer to play New Heimat as well.
All right.
Just more tension in that game.
Yeah. And it's just a little bit meaner, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Also play Puerto Rico again.
Nice.
Every time we play it, we're like, we need to play this more.
It's still a great little game, and that addition you have is beauty.
Yeah, we lucked into that one. Infamy is another game. This is one that Daniel taught us how to play. It's kind of a sci-fi bidding role selection game with kind of a simple worker placement aspect. Amanda absolutely loved it, even though it's kind of Ameritrashy. It has some cool Euro mechanics in it. I enjoyed it, but not as much as Amanda did. But it was cool.
Right
and it has a cool gun for a first player marker.
Nice.
So, and last but not least, 1846. But I'll talk about that here a little bit more in a little bit.
Okay.
How about you? What you been up to?
Surprisingly, I've been able to play several games lately.
All right. Cool.
In spite of a large workload. But I've played Agricola, the City Hall with you. We borrowed your Roads and Boats and got a game of Roads and Boats.
Which I appreciate because that lets you punch it.
No, I only punched like a third of that bastard. There is 100,000 chits in that box. Man.
It is the epitome of fiddly, but God, is that a good game.
It is a heavy game in weight as well as weight. I mean, that box weighs 15 pounds, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. Did you like it, though?
Oh, yeah. It's my second. There's a second.
Oh, that's right. We played it once previously.
With Paul Chad.
Yeah, that's right. He taught us.
So, and Matt, I played it with Matt. We just played a 2-player on one of those little 2-player scenario, Matt. And, it was good. Matt dug it too, so.
Rock on. That was his first play, right?
That was his first play. I've been playing, Biblios too. And have you played Biblios?
I've seen it played. I have not played it.
Dude, I want to tell you a little bit about Biblios for just a quick sec. Cause it's recently reprinted. It was 2007, Steve Finn, 30 minutes, but a lot of fun and some really excellent decision points. I think that there's only one auction game better than Biblios in its weight class, and that would be Modern Art. The auction in this game is awesome. The game's really done over like 2 phases. Phase 1 is it's called the gift phase, where you draw cards. You have to make decisions immediately with those cards in your hand or in the auction pile or in the public stack and stuff like that. Then when that phase is completely done through the deck, then you go to the auction phase, and it's all about just driving up the values of the different suits and ending with, majority in the suits to win those victory points. But those auctions are they're awesome and tense filled. They're very tense. And, the gift phase is tense on those decisions too. As soon as you make a decision and, I'm putting this in my hand, the next card is like, damn, I wish I hadn't. So
it sounds interesting.
For 30 minutes, man, it's
I'll be honest, you sold me on it. Just your enthusiasm alone. I'm awesome. Like, okay, let's play it. Sure.
It's really fun. And in Endeavor, been playing that. And, I played it once.
Okay. So you played it.
I have played it once.
Okay. All right.
And, it's an out of printer, so it's, hard to get, but, it's only 7 turns long, and the game is kind of shaped like a cone, because the first turn is over so fast, and the second turn's a little longer, and then the third turn's a little longer, and by the 5th, really 2 turns in, you're like, this is a game, and by the 5th turn, you're like, holy crap. because it's just wicked brutal area control, and you're a little bit of civ building in the sense that you're building buildings that are the action selection, the powers of your little colonial power.
So you're building the powers that you want to build.
Right. Of all these choices.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really a difficult game. It's a lot of fun.
I'm anxious to play it.
Ruthless.
We were going to play it Friday, but we had date night. Sorry, priorities.
No worries, no worries.
No, I'm really looking forward to trying this and finding out whether or not it's something that I want to own, because I know it is as excited as you were about it and as excited as you are to finally have it.
Yeah.
And you sound like you're definitely enjoying it. Middle or like medium weight?
Oh yeah. It's not heavy, but
fun nonetheless.
Pile of fun and still tough decisions. And like I said, ruthless.
Sweet.
Yeah. So you wanted to talk a little 1846, did you?
Yeah, I wanted to go a little bit more in depth because eventually we're going to feature it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But not for the foreseeable future, just to be able to get enough plays in, yada.
Yeah.
So I wanted to...
I only have one play myself.
I wanted to kind of whet the appetite a little bit more. So 1846 is designed by Tom Lehman, published by Deep Thought Games. Normally, I don't mention cost at this point, but I do want to point out, normally there's a 3 to 5 year wait on Deep Thought Games. However, you can get it expedited. It's not cheap. It's $121, but you're talking a 3-week wait as opposed to a 3 to 5 year wait. And that's through Golden Spike Games, who makes the game for Deep Thought Games. It plays 3 to 5 players. I would say 3 to 5 hours based on experience. The more you play, the quicker it's going to get. So what's happening in the game? It's a great 18xx game. It's set in the Midwest here in the States. The game scales based on player count, so the bank size, the privates, and the corporations all scale. There's fewer available for less players, so on and so forth. I don't have enough experience to say it's the quintessential game for both beginners and experienced players to play together, but it's a really good one, and it's really highly recommended for that mix. So if you have some new players, maybe not new to 18xx or even new to 18xx, there's enough in there for the experienced players to enjoy too, as opposed to a game like Steam Over Holland that after 3 players, the experienced player never wants to play it again.
Sure.
Or at least in my case, that's the case. So what do I like in the game? First off, the production quality from Deep Thought or Golden Spike, whatever, same, is top notch. It's a bit Spartan and functional, as are most 18xx's, 18OE, notwithstanding. But the quality of the components truly is perfect. There's just nothing. Yeah, it's just top notch. The scaling and how the random removal of the private companies and the corporations, there's just a plethora of changing situations and trying out different combinations, because you don't know which privates are removed, which corporations are removed in this game if you're playing, with less than the.
And each of those privates have nice little special things about them, so that change up is really pretty cool.
Absolutely. Another cool thing about this that I like is it has an initial draft for privates as opposed to an auction. Normally I would prefer an auction, but with this being catered more towards a beginner, if a beginner were to play, say, an 1830 style game to where the private, they have no frame of reference for how much a private should go for.
It's hard to value it.
Right. Whereas here, it's just it's a draft. You have, say 5 of them in front of you. You pick one. You're going to pay face value. Pass them over, or, shuffle them back up. And so it's a draft. Really dig that. I think that's
I like a good drafting mechanic.
Yeah. And it works perfect. Yeah. Because it offsets that in some 18xx's, you can lose the game before the game starts if you were to do poorly in that initial auction. That can't happen in this because you can always make it work.
Sure.
Another thing that I kind of like for what it is, it's a kinder, gentler 18xx, but it's not boring. There's little, if any, company dumping on players, so you're not going to run a company into the ground and then dump it on an unsuspecting player or whatever. Another cool thing is companies are floated or started, if you will, as soon as the president shares bought, as opposed to the 40% that you normally need. Also operate, because it's floated when the president share is bought, operations start in that first set of operating rounds as opposed to waiting possibly until the second set. So it gets the game quicker.
Sure.
It gets it started a little bit quicker. It has incremental capitalization, which I prefer, which what that means is every company has 100% of stock broken down into 20% for the president's share and 10% for each individual share. When you buy the president's share, that money goes into the company. You don't get all 100% worth of the company because the stock is in the company. As people buy stock, whether it's you or your opponents, they pay your company and incrementally capitalize your company. Yeah. And I prefer that as opposed to the 100%, which some 18xx's have. Also, kind of to hit on a little bit what you said, how the privates have different abilities, special abilities. Some of the privates allow companies to teleport to different starting cities. And so the layout of the track isn't stagnant every game. It's not like, oh, he's going to go from point A to point B because that's what this company always does. With these different companies having buying in these privates, it can change every single game. So I'm not going to say randomization because that's not it, but
variety.
A ton of variety on this. Also, some of the corporations themselves, 2 of them, in fact, can do that teleportation as well. So again, even more variety there in the gameplay. Next to last on things I really enjoy is there's no real set way to win. In some 18xx's, the best rule is to start your first company low or to par it low at a low value, and then your second company par high. Well, in 1846, more often than not, you're not going to have a second company. And another cool thing is sometimes when people par their company high to start, they'll win. Sometimes if they par it low, they'll win. If they par it low, they can buy more shares. If they par it high, they're more valuable shares, but you don't buy as many. And so there's no set way like some
games will devolve into this certain pattern of play.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm saying that this doesn't do, which is awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Even more replayability, and it doesn't get old. I think there's one guy who's played it over 100 times and says he's still learning new things about it, which is just fantastic in my opinion.
Right.
Last but not least, the fact that companies can divest shares and selling shares into the open market doesn't tank stock value. The only time your stock value is going to drop like that is at the end of a stock round if there's anything left in the open market. Then you get dinged, not for every share that's sold. So if somebody has 4 shares and they go around and sell, boom, 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 you drop 4 pegs on the stock market. That doesn't happen here. And I think, again, for what this game is trying to do, I think that's ideal.
Yeah.
Now, there are a couple things that I'm not going to say I dislike about it, but that maybe aren't my favorite. It has a linear stock market or a 1D stock market, which is good for beginners, but I much prefer the kind of ladder 2D type stock market. I much prefer that. But again, for what the game's trying to do, I get that.
It works well.
Also, there's no par price. When I say, par price in this game is whatever the current value is what all the shares are. As opposed to other ones where until all the stock's bought from the company, it's whatever you set the price at initially, regardless of what the current price is. It might not be real intuitive for beginners, so I understand why there's no par price, but I prefer there being those 2 separate prices, current market value as opposed to the discounted or whatnot.
Right.
As long as those shares are still in the company. Lastly, with usually only 1 company per player, there's less stock manipulation and there's less train manipulation and train swapping between companies. So there is some, but it's just not as prevalent in this game, which that takes a minor aspect, or it lessens the impact that has in a game.
Well, it's a good tool for learners.
No, but there's still, like I said, there's still plenty enough game here for somebody who has played it a ton to really enjoy the game. And the fact that it's one of the quicker or faster playing game 18xx's out there.
Yeah.
Personally, for a rating, I give it a 4. In my opinion, if you're interested in trying out an 18xx game, then this is the one to get and play. Yes, it's expensive, but it's available. You can get it. It's $120. So if that kind of puts you off, you can turn around and flip it for, if not the full price, at least close to that with very little risk.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want to say it's the quintessential, but I do feel that I would recommend people to get this over an 1830.
Well, I am a 18XX novice. When I played 1846 with you, that was only my second 18XX game. The first one, I can't remember what it was, but, you know, I was just like, oh my God, what the heck's going on here? In 1846, maybe some of it from that experience, some of it from your teaching, and some of it from the style of the game. I really dug it, enjoyed it, grasped it, and then figure that two things is going to happen. One, I'm going to play 1846 some more, and two is I'll be more ready, more prepared for that next level of 18XX game as well.
And which is why I think this is such a good game for beginners.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a good one also that even if you don't have somebody that's experienced, so let's say you have a group of 4 guys or whatever, 4 people that want to try an 18XX, this would be a good one to get to start even though no one's played one before. The rule book makes sense. There's plenty of people to ask questions online if you have any.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just great game. Really, really highly recommended.
Right on.
So that's 1846. So when you told me what this game is that you wanted to talk about more, I'll be honest, I'd never heard of it. But I'm excited about it because I did some reading on it, and even though it's definitely on the not heavy side, but it sounds really interesting. And that is?
Merchants of the Middle Ages.
Or?
Die Handler. Merchants of the Middle Ages was first produced in 1999 as Die Handler by a couple of German fellows, Wolfgang Kramer and Richard Ulrich. And these two guys have a bit of a pedigree. Richard has done El Grande, El Caballero, and Princes of Florence. Wolfgang has done a crap ton. He owns or has shared 5 SDJs, and he's just a prolific designer. It's a 2 to 4 player game, but seriously, folks, 3 minimum, 4 preferred. And it's 90 minutes, 120 minutes tops, that kind of thing, just depending on how the play goes. But what's going on in the game is players are buying and selling 6 different kinds of goods across 6 different medieval cities in Europe. Thrilling. But actually it is. Each of the cities makes and demands various types of goods, right? That each city has 3 goods that they will make there, and those goods you can sell there, but you're not going to get as much for them as you would selling the other 3 goods there. Players take turns purchasing goods from the general supply, but when they purchase them, they have to put those goods in a warehouse in one of those 6 cities, and it can only be in the city that produces that good. So if I bought 2 things of silk, I have to put them in 1 or 2 of the silk cities and store them in my warehouse there. And they're kept there until they can be loaded onto a wagon and then transported to another city where they can be sold. Hopefully a city, in the case of silk, that doesn't produce silk, so I can get the extra money for it.
And those wagons.
Well, those wagons are these, like, blocks of wood. Man.
Seriously, they're
awesome.
huge.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
And the money, money that you earn is basically used to not only just purchase more goods, but to purchase and to maintain your social standing.
Yes.
Yes, as a excellent merchant. And that is the winning condition, not money. It's at the end of the game, whoever has the highest social standing is the winner.
If I'm getting ahead of you here, then please tell me. But having never played the game, I was doing some reading, and I read that some people compare it to At the Gates of Loyang, in that you can build victory, or you can buy victory points to raise up on the level.
I can see that, because it always becomes more expensive to raise your social standing, and the higher you raise it, the more expensive it is to maintain.
Which makes sense, and thematically, sure.
Yeah, and you can drop backwards and stuff, and you don't have to buy it up,
And you don't have to maintain it, although you want to try and win, right.
So what's cool about this game is it's economics.
Right.
This is a solid economic game, especially in the aspect of buying goods and deciding what warehouse to sell them in, right? Because there's only 3 wagons in the game, and there's 6 cities, and 4 players are buying goods and putting them in all these different warehouses.
That can be brutal.
And so when a wagon reaches a city and you sell everything on it, right? And all the players get their money at whatever the current market value for those things are. The right to be the load master is now auctioned amongst the players. And so if I'm the load master, then I can put something on the wagon. And then any other players who have goods in that city in their warehouses must now negotiate with me to load their goods onto the wagon.
So, it's like this.
Oh, it's really, really solid and really, really fun.
So you said that depending on what the market price is, so you're telling me that it's a fluid market. It fluctuates.
It is. And that's the one thing. We'll go there. We'll get there.
Okay.
When a wagon leaves a city, each player has 4 little counters in front of them, numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's how far they can move the wagon. So if I want to move the wagon 3 spaces, I flip over the 3. I can now not use the 3 until I've used all of my other ones, and I move the wagon 3 spaces. And all the players do that. And the roads, once you make like a turn, the wagons can't double back and everything. So the players together direct the wagons to the cities that they want the wagons to go to.
Interesting.
It is. And when it finally gets to the city, right, that's when it pays out based on the market value, plus a bonus if it's not one of the goods that city produces. And when wagons get to cities, all the other cities' bonus levels go up.
To entice you
to get there.
Yeah, because they're like, hey, we want silk over here. Hello.
So there's one thing about the economy that's kind of abstractly player-driven that I wish it was, it feels so 1999, but it's very cool.
That's what I was just going to ask. Is it a dated mechanic?
The market value is, and basically each player has a dial with 2 hands on it. And the dial is surrounded by the 6 kind of goods and a 7th spot for nothing. And so you can move the hands. So if I put a hand on nothing and a hand on silk, that means I'm making silk go up 1. If I put both of my hands on silk, that means I'm making silk go up 2. And the price track is a loop. So once it goes up to its max, it'll go back down to 0 and start to climb up again.
Ugh.
So it's a little dated and weird, and I wish that was more what's happening driven rather than player driven. But I guess I can understand it for the fact that, hey, if the prices get too high, the market adjusts. I can just assume that the players, people balk at paying the high price, right? And things drop down. So aside from that part, the economics are pure economics and negotiation, except for that piece.
All right.
So it's very, very cool. And, in any negotiation game, players can break it. If somebody wants to be a jerk and charge $1 million per piece you want to load on the wagon and stuff like that. But, people got to remember, like, you're a businessman or a businesswoman in the game. And, the point is to make money while allowing other players to do so too. And that's the engine that keeps the game going. Now, naturally, you want those deals to go more in your favor than not. And you can make somebody a sweetheart deal this time. They'll make you a sweetheart deal next time. Maybe. Chad, not Paul Chad, but Chad taught us this game a couple Saturdays ago. And I made him a sweetheart deal. That jerk did not make me one. So therefore, hey, Matt, $300. Hey, Chad, $600.
Rock on. Nice.
But, I'd rather make 500 silver 10 times than make 1,200 silver once.
Right.
Because you need that money, right, to fuel more purchases and more auctions and more social status.
Do more coke so you can work more hours.
Exactly.
And make more money. Right, yeah.
So one play, no rating yet. My impression is very favorable. It's something that, you don't want to play every month.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to crack that sucker out once in a while. And I liked it so much that I happened upon an ad. Fun Again Games has this on sale for $15 right now, so I bought it. It's retail $54.99. So I was like, how can I not buy it? I said to my wife and Matt, how can I not buy this? And Matt, being the good soldier, he said, you can't afford not to. so I did.
That's kind of like on my container thing. I told Amanda after the fact, and she's like, I would have been pissed at you had you not gotten it.
No doubt.
I was like, yeah, that's rock on.
So if this game is sounding interesting to you, it can be hit on very cheaply right now, and that is Merchants of the Middle Ages.
So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll into La Granja.
La Granja is Spanish for the farm, and it is a game produced in 2014 by Spielworxx, and the designer is the Swiss-German design team of Michael Keller and Andreas Odenal, who are first-time designers.
Not to be confused with the American Michael Keller.
Not. The artist on the game is Harold Leiska.
Also the same designer, or I'm sorry, the same artist as Castles of Burgundy. So that's why when I saw the game, that was the first thing I thought of, just the artwork-wise. So.
All right. The player count in the game, 1 to 4. Length of time, it says 120 minutes. Kind of don't feel like it's really that long. Let's talk a little bit about components, graphic design. Speaking of that artist, I think he killed it. I think the game is beautiful.
Yeah, it invokes the feeling of kind of that, older, timey farm type. I like the artwork is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. The component quality wise, not artwork, the cardboard is all thick. The cards seem decent. I didn't really pull one out. You already had them sleeved.
Yeah, and the reason is just because it's not a cheap game and not easy to get. So I sleeved everything. But no, the cards are fine. I don't believe they were linen finished, but they're still sturdy. They're solid cards. Yeah. I think the component quality is standard. It's fine. I don't think there's anything exemplary about it. Do you?
No. Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. I do think that your farm board is nice and thick, as it should.
Agreed. Same with the player aid. Is really, really thick and solid. Yep.
That farm board would have been nice. Maybe little risers underneath.
Oh boy, don't even get me started. We'll hit on that later.
Well, we're talking about. All right. Yeah. Component wise, I kind of feel like there needs to be less 10-point victory point chips and more 1-point. Boy, we're making change like crazy in this game.
Yeah. Agreed.
Rulebook. What'd you think about the rulebook?
I was able. And kudos to Spielworxx, because I will be the first to tell you their rule book for Rochefort and for Colon Colony were just trash. For the English version, they were completely unplayable. This, however, I was able to sit down with the components in front of me and learn the game absolutely no problem. It was laid out well. It made sense. It was clear. There was some little bit of verbiage that you can tell whoever had written it wasn't a native English speaker. But it wasn't Pig Latin. It wasn't Google Translate. It just a couple of words swapped here and there, or it just not how you and I would speak.
Right.
And so it wasn't, but yeah, totally clear. I thought it was great, personally.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the most beautiful rule books I've seen in a long time. I mean, it's also gorgeous with lavishly illustrated and backgrounds and
on that note, one thing that I really appreciated that they did is they had a picture of the board it's set up, because there was one question that I was like, wait, and then I looked over at the picture and I was like, that's perfect. All right, nailed it. Thanks, guys.
The only thing I had a hard time with reading the rules is I think they kind of over-categorize the goods. There's farm goods, there's harvest goods, there's upgraded goods, there's resource. Oh, jeez, man, it's olives and grapes, But so once you get through all that crap,
Yeah, the terminology, and sometimes they use this term to mean this one when it wasn't consistent throughout the whole thing. On one of the cards, they mentioned the word stable, and that's literally the only place in the game in which it's mentioned. And that's regarding one of the pig.
Oh, the
stalls.
Pig pen things. Yeah.
And so they called it a stable there. And I'm like, wait, what's a stable? So outside of that,
availability and cost.
Sorry, guys. We're potentially going to piss off people because of the fact that this is out of print. This is already sold out.
There was only 1,000.
Right. Because at Spielworxx, they do limited print runs, not to artificially create demand. Just they haven't had any huge hits. They've been all kind of niche within a niche. Yeah. And this is blowing up. Apparently, a lot of people are trying to get a copy, and it's sold out. It originally sold for, I want to say it was about $75. Mm-hmm. I saw one in the BGG marketplace today.
Oh, today?
Yeah, $125 in the marketplace.
Like when I was preparing for this a couple days ago, I saw one for sale in Germany for 134 euros, which is about $170.
Wow.
Wow.
So, yeah, 125.
So if you didn't see that, someone bought that. Someone paid that.
It may have been there. It may have. But the point is, it's out of print. So sorry about that. Although I know with Essen coming up, I know that Uli, who is the Spielworxx guy, he is Spielworxx, has some publishers wanting to publish the game, like for not German, whether it's here in the States, whoever. So I know there's going to be discussions. What comes of that? Obviously, we don't know yet, but I'm hoping, even though the collector in me is like, haha, genuinely, I hope that the game gets a second printing. So there's that. But unfortunately, right now, it's sold out. It wasn't when we planned on doing this recording. How's that?
Right. In terms of the play count that you and I have experienced, I've played a 4-player game and a 3-player game.
Oh, and I played 4 and 2.
4 and 2. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll be able to talk a little bit about.
We can't do the solo. Neither of us have played the solo game yet.
I read the solo rules though, and I was thinking about playing it, but it didn't look interesting. It's I think it'd be better with persons. Although we haven't played it, so we can't speak definitively. Sure. Since we've played 2, 3, and 4 between us anyway, what do you think about the scalability?
Speaking from the 4 to 2, I think 4 is the best player count just because there's more stuff going on. Yeah. And I think most games like this tend to be better with the higher player count. Not always, but that said, I enjoyed the 2-player game. I really did. It cuts down on the playtime. Sure. And it makes it for a very pleasant evening game, on a school night, so to speak. On a school night. Yeah. How about you? What do you think about the 3 and the 4?
I agree that 4 is probably the best. Played the 3-player and we had no issues. It was perfectly fine with 3 as well. So good stuff. In fact, our 3-player game, not counting teaching, we got done in like 60 minutes.
Wow, that's pretty quick. Yeah. I was thinking that would be about the time for the 2-player, give or take a little, maybe even 50 minutes. So yeah, I could see that. That makes sense.
I'm just a good teacher.
Yeah, well.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts of what we like and don't like about the game, let's give it a little bit of cover on what's going on in the game. So in La Granja, you're running a farm, and it's on the island of Mallorca.
Which I've been there.
You have?
I have. Oh. Not to La Granja, but I've been to Mallorca.
Yes. Yeah, well, you've probably seen many La Granjas there. Many Granjas.
And a lot of bars. But
a lot of bars.
Hey, I'm a Marine. We drink. Anyway.
Turn order in the game is set by the players that took the most siestas. So very Spanish themed there. And during the 6 rounds of the game, the players are going to go through 4 phases of a turn. So there's a farm phase, a revenue phase, a transportation phase in which the turn order will change in the midst of, and then finally the scoring phase. So you're going to do that 6 times. While you're working through the phases of the game, there's a central game board that has 6 market buildings on it that the players will deliver various goods to. Each building has a slightly different variation of what it desires from the players. When you deliver all that a building requires, you earn that building's special power token. And just to note, when you start the game, there are 6 of those, but 3 of them are closed. They're out of play until other events happen in the game. They're only opened after a player first accomplishes the goals to one market building. So, for example, if I deliver all of the things that building A wants, I now can open the first building of the 3 closed ones. Also, each player has a little board that depicts their farm. And the farm board has places to store pigs and the meat and the different harvest goods, olives, grain, and grapes, and a place for the upgraded versions of those, wine and food. The main thing about this game, and I want you to think Glory to Rome, is that the cards can be placed by sliding them under one of the 4 edges of your farm in order to utilize a specific aspect of the card, because the cards have like 4 sections on them. If you place your card under the left side of your farm, it is now a field, and that's where olives, grain, and grapes will grow. If you place a card at the bottom of your board, there's these neat little cutouts that you slide the card into, and it just hides everything but this one part of the card. These are called helpers, and it's basically a special power. And here I want you to think Agricola and the occupations and minor improvements. It's very much in that vein. Each of the cards, it's little special rule breakers. And you can only have 3 of them at any one time. If you put a card to the right, it is now a farm extension, and it's going to do 2 of these 3 things. It can either increase your turn income by 1. Every turn you're going to get money from the game. and cards placed there could increase that by 1. It could allow you 1 additional delivery, but you have to pay a silver piece for those deliveries. And it could give you an extra space for a pig. You see, your farm starts with spaces for 2 pigs. But when those pigs breed, again, think Agricola, you need a space for the little baby pigs. So you need to
piglets,
grow
if you will.
That's right. So the last thing, and these extensions cost. All the other cards are free to place, but the extensions cost. So when you slide the first one in, it costs you 1 resource. When you slide the second one in, it costs you two resources, but they have to be different. You slide a third one in, it costs you 3 resources, but they have to be different, etc., etc., etc. The last place you can slide a card is under the top of your farm, and these are actually pretty cool. They're called the market barrows. And when you slide the card in, it depicts, 3 to 5 different goods that you would have to deliver to your market barrow. And when you complete that, you get a special good called a trade good, and you can place one of your pieces into the central market. The central market. In the middle of that main player board, surrounded by those 6 market buildings, is this little honeycomb of hexagons that are each numbered 2 through 6. And when you place a piece here, let's say that I completed a market stall with a number 3 on it. I'm going to get 3 victory points, and I get to put one of my pieces in one of those hexagons that's marked with a 3. And when I do that, any hexagons next to it that are of lower number boot those players out, and I get a victory point for every one that I boot out. So, Edward, if you drop the 6 in there, you're pretty much booting out everybody that's around that and getting some points.
Yeah, that worker displacement.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about the different phases. We talked about the 4 phases. The farm phase. Basically, you play a card onto your farm, and you draw up to your hand limit. You collect your income. You produce any piglets, if you have room for them, and you have a breeding pair, if you will. And you can buy a roof tile. And we didn't talk about roof tiles, but basically those are just one-time little bonuses. What's cool about them is the cost of them is equal to the turn. So if this is turn 1, they cost $1. If it's turn 2, they cost $2, etc. So by turn 6, they're obviously $6. But here's the thing, they don't get any better. They just get more expensive. You can only buy 5 during the game, so buy them cheaper.
But they do give you victory points after the first one.
That is a very good point. Yeah, when you get what your 3rd, 4th, and 5th give you some victory points. That's an excellent point. Then there's the revenue phase. There's 6. This is really the crux of the actions in the game. There's 6 revenue actions, and they're numbered 1 through 6. These are the main actions that you're going to take as a player to operate your farm. I'll tell you what those actions are in just a second. In the game, there are 6-sided dice that are going to be rolled. You roll 2 dice per player plus 1. You roll them out, sort them out by the number, and you line them up by the number that matches that revenue action. And this is going to determine how many and what kind of actions are available to the players this turn. Think Panamax, because Panamax rolls those dice for the action phases. So here's what your actions are. Every die that's a 1 will allow you to take a pig, provided you have a home for that pig.
If not, you sell them.
You sell them for
bacon.
What, $4, $3? I can't remember.
Right.
Number 2 is you get a choice. You can play a card onto your farm from your hand, or you can draw a new card into your hand, or you can take 1 harvest good. The 3rd action is just take two harvest goods, but each of a different kind. The 4th action is sometimes pretty important. 4 silver, just take money. The 5th action is often a tough choice. You can upgrade 2 resources for free, or you can upgrade 1 resource and take 1 siesta.
And who doesn't want a siesta?
Or you can take 2 siestas.
Probably the guy who wants 2 siestas. That's it.
And you remember the siestas control the turn order, so hence the tough choice. And the last one, number 6, is another choice. You can acquire an immediate 1 delivery of some good, or you can take 2 silver. Which then leads us into the transportation phase. Every player has 4 different delivery tiles with 4 icons. It's a mix of donkeys and hats. And the donkeys are the icons for making deliveries, and the hats are the icons for taking siestas. Am I boring you?
No. Siestas.
Yeah, I know. Each player secretly selects one, and then we all reveal them. We count the siestas, adjust the turn order immediately, and then the players set about making their deliveries. Each donkey, one delivery.
In the new order.
In the new order, which is important. If you complete all your deliveries to a building, you get that tile, that special power tile that we talked about. If you're the first player to do so, you get a bonus victory point. And then if you open up one of the closed buildings, you also get a victory point. And then after all players have delivered, then each player can then spend silver to make additional deliveries, provided they have the farm extensions to provide those additional deliveries. The last phase of the game is the scoring phase. You get points for your pieces in the central market that have not been displaced by other people. And you'll get 0 to 3 points for where you are on the siesta track. The more you snooze, the more you win.
That's my kind of game.
Yeah. And you do that 5 more times, count up the VPs. Part of that is you sell the goods that are on your farm, but not in your fields, for whatever their value is, and every $5 is an additional victory point. Most victory points is the wiener.
So now, real quick, normally we don't do that. Normally we don't go through the rules as much, or, kind of a gameplay as much as we did. But with this being out of print, and if you do get a copy being so expensive, we kind of wanted to lay it out a little bit more than we normally did, just because it is on the higher end and it is kind of hard to get. So want to make that point. Yeah. So if you want to spend that money.
I mean, basically, between the gameplay description and what we're going to talk about our likes and dislikes, our ratings, this is could be an investment,
More so than
you're not spending $40.
Exactly, right. And that's what I'm trying to say.
Right. So, normally this is when we talk about what makes a game heavy. And La Granja is more of a medium game.
Yeah, it definitely not I would not categorize it. I think the BGG rating, for what it's worth, has it at 3.6.
Well, that's way too high.
I think so. I think this is like low 3s, I think is where it'll settle out at. However,
but let's still talk about all the things we normally talk about with a game. Let's start with the complexity.
Like we said, not terribly complex. It fits in that solid mid-weight realm of games. It's on par with something like a Keyflower or Agricola, I think.
Whoa. Keyflower, yes.
Interesting. We'll get into that. But complexity. The complexity, I think, really only comes in the planning of your decisions, which really is more the planning. What do you think?
It's not complex. It kind of looks complex at first. But when you experience it, it's not. I think that complexity is a low contributing factor to the weight of the game.
Sounds good. I'll buy that.
And I think the same way about planning. I think the planning in this game is also a low contributing factor. I don't feel like I need to plan a lot.
It does feel a little bit more tactical than long-term planning. I'd buy that. So moving on.
All right. Luck and random factors.
With this not being a heavy game, I have a much smaller issue with the amount of randomness that's in this game.
Yes.
Let me explain. There are basically, I think, 3. I may be forgetting some. There are the dice rolls, first off, for what actions are available for each player to take. There is the randomness on the cards and the card draw. Because every card, there are 66 cards in this game, and I'm not going to say you're not going to, you as the player will not see them all. Between all of you, you probably will if it's
you might see 10 during the game.
Right.
If you draw a lot.
And they're all individual cards. They're all completely different, especially with the helpers.
Yeah.
And then the lineup of goods on all the other sides.
No two are the same.
Right. So there's randomness there. And then there's another minor randomness thing with the craft buildings and what 3 are locked at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, fair point. I didn't think of that one. Initial turn order.
Sure.
That's most games, unless you're auctioning for turn order.
Right.
Yeah, I think those are the only random factors I see in the game, too. Good call on the craftsmen, or the craft buildings that are locked.
To me, I'm okay with the randomness that there is because
I'm kind of okay with it because the heavier a game is for me personally, the less threshold I have for accepting randomness, right?
Right, and things which makes sense,
right? Yeah. Or things that I'm good for variety, but I don't like just off the shelf, randomness.
Right.
So, game length, I think that's another low contributing factor because the game really plays pretty quick.
It does. I think our first game, keep in mind, it was after work. I was a little bit more tired than I normally would have been.
I was wasted, tired.
And so I felt like it dragged a little towards the end. But I think that was outside contributing factors. I think
God, it was loud that night too.
Oh, yeah, it was painful at first. So I think all the outside things made it feel longer than it actually did because subsequent plays, that.
Are there any general factors that you feel other than, the complexity planning, etc.?
Right. Well, I guess I think here is a good place to put it. There can be a little bit of AP with the cards. And the reason is a lot like Glory to Rome. There are, like you mentioned, there are the 4 sides of the player board. And so when you get a chance to play a card, first off, you have to determine which of your 3, 4, 5, 6 cards to play.
Yeah. You got some choice to play.
Yeah, and then not only which card to play, but where. Because once you put it on one of those 4 sides, that's it. You're negating the other 3 things that it can do. Obviously, we have not played the game a ton. However, in our most recent game with me and Amanda, I saw some cards that I was like, dude, that is awesome. Because I didn't see it in our previous plays. Sure. And so I was like, man, I love that helper. And I'm like, oh, but these resources that, the market barrel part, the top part of the card, I was like, but I want to put it there, but I want the helper. And I'm like, ugh. Mm-hmm. And so that agonizing decision, I think, adds to the weight. And it's an important decision. It's not just willy-nilly. It's not AP just, oh, shoot, where do I put it? It's, okay, if I put it here, what's my plan going to be? What am I going to do?
Right.
This is going to help direct me in what way I'm going to play the game.
You have some limited opportunities to place cards, so you better use it if you place it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Just, it's really important. And so where you place it, like you said, you better use it.
How long do you think it would take a person that's, familiar with, medium and heavy games to get into this game?
Sometime during the first game.
Yeah.
I think after the first, maybe the second of the 6 rounds, it's definitely on the quicker end because no quicker than the end of the first round because you need to see how things play out. And the reason I say maybe at the end of the second round is because everyone's still trying to get their engine going. The first, second round, maybe.
Yeah.
That third round even maybe. For the displacement of the workers, because when people start
hitting the market barrows.
Right. Once they complete those and they start seeing how that works, and you're like, oh, snap, I now have no markers out there in the central marketplace. And now not only did you get a point for displacing mine, now you're going to get another point on top of that for having another marker out there on the board. So seeing that, I would say, probably no more than half the game. What do you think?
I'm in complete agreement. Complete agreement. Nothing I can add to that. All right, so let's talk about the things that make the game fun and enjoyable for us. Let's start with you, sir.
In a previous episode, I had mentioned how I was kind of burnt out on Glory to Rome. I really enjoyed the game, but I played it so much that I got burnt out of it. This has that Glory to Rome feel without playing Glory to Rome.
Okay.
Because of the card play. I love the card play in this and the way I really enjoy being able to make that decision of, okay, I have a card. Is it going to be a field? Is it going to be a market barrel? Am I going to use the helper or is it going to be a farm extension? And so if I have 6 cards, I now have 24 choices.
Right.
I love that.
I have that down as well. The 4 things you can do with a card, the choice we've been talking about.
Yeah, that's my number one favorite thing about this game, bar none.
Okay, I don't know if I have a number one favorite thing. I have several bullet points though. I like when the players are selecting their dice. There's 2 dice per player plus 1. I like that everybody gets the last die.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. I didn't put that down as one of my things, but I really did genuinely enjoy that.
If you're that last guy and you're looking at 2 dice, you're like, which one do I want? Which one do I want everyone to have?
Right.
It's a cool little decision.
I like that. And so it kind of offsets being last in turn order because, obviously, if you're first in turn order, you have full range of what action you want. Whereas this, okay, I'm last. I'm stuck with these 2, but at least now I'm going to dictate what everyone's going to get. So there's that. So another thing here is there isn't really a lot new, but it's a really cool meshing of established mechanics. The card play, like I said, is my favorite, but the player displacement is fun with the market barrows. One thing I really dug is it in the back of the rule book. I don't know if you noticed this, but the designers even give credit to kind of the shoulders on which they built upon.
Yeah.
There's Matthias Kramer.
Mm-hmm.
There's Carl Chuddik, Glory to Rome.
Right.
There's Stefan Feld for Luna, which I haven't played, but I've heard that comparison.
Now that you said that, I'd like to add that, an addendum to my hunt list.
Yeah, you and me both. But I thought it was cool that in the back of the rule book, they actually gave credit to these designers saying, look, we dug this and we they didn't copy it verbatim, so to speak, the mechanic. They made it their own. And I really appreciated.
It was flattery, not copying.
Right. There you go. And I really like how it's its own game. It brings these mechanics together, and it doesn't feel like a mismatch of mechanics to me. I felt like it was pretty seamless.
I like how the siestas manipulate the turn order, and when you move your turn order markers, speaking of Stefan Feld, how they kind of like last one there is on top, and that's the way the sequence goes and everything, and that I like the way that plays into, you want to do siestas tactically, because sometimes when you're going to finish up a market barrow, you really kind of want to be last, so you displace people and not be the displaced person. And I like that the turn order changes in the middle of the game, in the middle of the turn, I should say.
Yeah, I dig that.
I like also that, we talked about in the transportation phase, each player's got 4 of the transportation markers.
The donkeys and siestas.
And the hats.
Right.
I like that. You have 4, but there's 6 turns. And it's not to the third phase do you get them all back. So if I use this one now, I don't get that back till turn 4. And so that leads to some choices.
To where you can't always make 4 deliveries, or you can't always take 3 siestas or whatnot.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I also very much am a fan of that. I dig how you can focus how you deliver. Everybody in the game, the goal of the game is to make deliveries. Everyone's going to have to make those deliveries. But you could do it one of 3 ways. You could focus solely on the market barrows and focus on only doing that and then the worker displacement. You could focus solely on the craft building deliveries, which are more long-term deliveries, but they give you stronger powers, if you will, each round after you complete them. Or you can do a mix of those. And I like the fact that even though everyone's going to the same goal, how you get there is going to be different between all the players.
So in this game, you don't have like cool little wheat tokens and cool little grape tokens. Everything's these little octagons.
Yes.
But you only have a limited number of them. And that's because they can be goods you've delivered, goods on your farm, goods you've delivered over here. They could be pigs. They could be the little market.
Wherever they are, that's what they are.
And you only got that many of them.
You got 25 total.
I never ran out of them, but I was always aware that I only had so many.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I like the limiting nature of that.
Yeah. You don't want full reign.
Right. One of the last things I have here is because everyone starts with the same goal, i.e. those deliveries that you're going to have to make if you're going to be competitive in the game, it really is an optimization game. And who can optimize better than all the other players? On that same note, that's also going to be on the flip side of it, which I'll get into in a minute. Last but not least, and this isn't really kind of a game-related thing. This is just, I'm kind of a Spielworxx fanboy. Mm-hmm. And I do feel that out of all their games up to this point, this is the one that's going to get the broader appeal, and it's going to put it, like Spielworxx, on more people's radar, which only helps build that company. And I like their game, so ergo, it's a good thing.
I do agree with your statement that I think this is something that can have the wider appeal like that. My answer to this question is yes. I want to ask you.
All right.
Do you think this is a gateway into meatier, heavier games for people? That isn't like, it's not Tokaido. It's not that kind of a gateway. This is a gateway that can introduce people into like, oh, let's do like 1846 to 18XX games.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
This is a good, like, hey, get into the medium weight category.
Yeah, I do feel like it could be a little overwhelming, for some people in that respect, just because of the overwhelming, it could feel with the cards. How am I going to use which cards? Yeah. I feel like that could be a little bit overwhelming to get from, say, the Ticket to Ride, Lords of Waterdeep step to this one. I think there should be something else in between there, maybe. Okay. And maybe I'm selling people short.
I don't know. I just thought I'd ask the question.
No, I think that's a valid point. This is definitely the latest game that we've done as a feature.
Well, let's get into some of the things we did not like about the game,
or liked less, or whatnot.
Sure. Okay.
So I had mentioned that because everyone has that same goal of deliveries, that it's a bit of an optimization game. It's kind of a dislike/question I have for you here. Because it's a who can optimize better, scores are naturally going to be fairly close. Do you feel like that's an artificial thing to make the game feel more tense, or is it just nature of the beast because of the optimization?
Well, there's no, at least I haven't seen any, big moves. The most victory points you're going to get is, maybe you drop a 6 into the market, and then you displaced 1 or 2 guys. That's those are big, huge points. Pretty much everything is 1, 3...
1,000 cuts type thing.
Yeah.
So do you think that's a flaw, or is that optimization? That's just the way these type of games are.
Yeah, I don't think it's a flaw. I don't mind that. We've talked about point salad stuff before, and it's refreshing to play non-point salads, here and there as well, right?
To where a couple points really do matter.
Yeah. So, no, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay. All right.
Before our first game, when you were teaching, man, and you were reading the rules, I was like, gosh, man, this is going to be a really good, interesting game. And the first play kind of was. And then I played again, and it was far less interesting. Earlier, we said how many plays to get it. I'm going to ask how many plays to get over it.
Really?
And I'm going to say 2.
Really? Why? Oh, why, though?
I don't know. There's not enough there for me, right? I mean, here's the thing. I don't dislike the game. It's a good game. There's more interesting and better games. And as we go through our lists here, I've got a few points that I want to bring up that are turning me off of the game.
Okay. All right.
The helper functions in the cards. I feel like a lot of them are seemingly less useful. I mean, I got 2 whole plays of experience here, but often I look at a card and I go, all right, that's a field. Or, all right, that's a market barrow and stuff. I kind of feel like the designers said, hey, we got 66 cards in this game and we got 12 good helper functions. Let's just fill up the other 54 with whatever we can think of.
See, I don't necessarily agree with that, because in subsequent plays, after every card, not every one did I feel, ooh, do I want to use that for the helper right now, this game. But if I were to grab the cards and go through them one by one, just could I find a use for that helper that makes sense? Sure, but they're going to be game dependent. I feel like, and by game dependent, I mean situational dependent.
I hear you. Some of the ones I saw, and again, I have not looked at the deck. I haven't read them all, studied them all, but I was just like, most of the ones I saw, I think maybe in my 2 games, I built 2 helpers, 1 in each game. Just because I have other priorities, and
well, maybe
not useful. Oh no! On the bright side, I haven't seen any overpowered.
I was gonna say this in playing this 2-player with Amanda. I found a helper that I was like, dude, this is just really, really cool. To where what it was take one of the dice that once they're rolled, set it in front of you. Anybody can use that die. They just have to pay you a resource. In a 2-player game, not quite as useful as it would be, say, in a 3 or a 4-player game. But nonetheless, I was like, that is really cool. So I will say that to a point, I understand that some can be more useful than others. Not necessarily underpowered, just maybe more edge cases in which it would come into play, if that makes sense. So I don't necessarily agree that there are throwaway cards, but I will agree that some are going to be more situationally dependent, and some are going to be more global.
And look, there is a extremely popular farming game called Agricola.
Right.
Same problem, right? I mean, and Agricola takes it to the nth degree. What is there, 1,000 cards available to Agricola
Dominion-ish.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a particular flaw, in my opinion, of this game, right? Agricola shares the same flaw where some of the cards are like, whatever,
I won't argue that maybe this card I just would never use. There may be some, I just haven't encountered them yet.
But here's the difference between the cards in Agricola and the cards in this. In Agricola, you can draft them. and where you can maybe cobble together some cards that help your thing. And so maybe if there was a draft, maybe in La Granja, maybe you draft your initial deck, and your hand comes from that deck. And when you draw cards, you draw from your deck. And then if you're out of your deck, then you draw from the main pile. But at least you can maybe cobble together some helpers.
I'm laughing over here because you are you just hate random.
The cards are exceedingly random and useless for the most part.
All right. So for my next one, I'm going to say that there's not a ton of interaction. Ever since we've played Panamax and we've seen how much interaction a game can have.
Oh, yeah.
There is there's the dice selection. There's that, almost like blocking, or if you're the last player, which die do I want everyone to gain the use of? There's also that worker market displacement that we've talked about. But other than that, there's not a lot of interaction,
right.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It's just something that I figure should be pointed out.
I feel like the game wants to offer good decisions, but that the decisions are generally obvious. And in fact, the game tells you when to make which decision. It tells you when to deliver. It tells you when to harvest. It tells you when to take a siesta. It tells you when to score. And I don't feel like, other than choosing which, am I going to make this an olive field or a market barrow, I have not felt any difficult decisions or repercussions of maybe making the wrong decision. I feel like the anytime actions in the game, while they promise flexibility, but they actually oversimplify the gameplay.
To a point, I'll agree with you. Here was what I had written down here as far as kind of to piggyback on that a little bit, is it's not as tight of a game as, for instance, Agricola. There are a lot of ways around to get to the destination if you're quote unquote blocked, or i.e. don't have the dice you need or whatever. And I feel like the game could be, dare I say, a little too forgiving.
Yeah.
And for guys like you and I,
unscripted. Maybe an open plan would be more fun than
go into
this phase, next. Right? Let me ship when I want to ship. Right? Those might be harder decisions, but the game just, because of the turn structure, it instructs you on when to do what.
I haven't felt that it was scripted. I understand where you're coming from on that. The fact that it's very procedural in what you can do and where. However, there are those bonus actions, or for the the trade goods and so on and so forth, that I don't necessarily agree that it feels scripted to me.
Okay.
But I do feel that it's just too wide open. It's too forgiving.
It's too easy.
So in a sense, I agree with you. Kind of.
I guess, I think it's really easy. So that's why I think, maybe it's a good gateway. And as the game goes on, I talk about, not facing really any difficult decisions. But, like when we talked about Craftsman, it's got that big killer production tree, right? And stuff like that. And then the decisions just get more meaningful, even though that's procedural. It tells you when to buy. It tells you when to build. But in this game, the decisions don't get more interesting. The only thing that happens is this turn I'm making 2 olives instead of 1 because I planted another.
I'd agree with that. Sure. That I can get on board with. It doesn't get, using that Craftsman analogy, to where the first year, when Paul Chad made his comment, "Oh, are we just going to do the same thing 3 times?" And we're like, "Wow, no, we're not."
I hope not.
However, in this, it is somewhat similar. Every round is going to be. I mean, you're going to have your engine built up, so you're going to be able to do a little bit more, deliver a little bit more.
Interesting.
I'm not going to say it's not interesting, but I understand where you're coming from.
Right on.
To continue on, it's a bit fiddly. It's set up, which really isn't a big thing. We like roads and boats, so everything is not fiddly compared to that. But some people might think it is. You had mentioned the whole when you slide the cards underneath.
Yeah.
And this isn't a gameplay thing. This is more of a design thing. At least in a black box of Glory to Rome, it comes with little rubber feet that you can attach to the board because you're putting cards underneath all 4 sides.
Yep.
This doesn't come with that. Therefore, if you don't sleeve your cards, it's possible for those cards to get caught on the edge of the board and eventually gur up the edges of those cards, which is a big negative.
And your sleeves are a little larger, and the cards collide.
Yeah, they do. When you're sliding from the bottom, sliding from the top, they don't quite fit.
This is one you want to sleeve and get like the exact fit.
Right. And unfortunately, if there had been just the little rubber feet to put underneath, you wouldn't need to sleeve the cards. So that's a real design, not game design, but production design.
A trial and error.
Yeah, that needs to be addressed. Also, my copy was missing a card.
Oh yeah.
But I emailed Uli at Spielworxx. He's like, he was embarrassed. He's like, oh man, send it out. No big deal.
Yeah. In fact, I remember when I came over a couple days later, it was already here.
Yeah. So the turnaround time, he was really responsive on that. Card number 37 is just flat out wrong. In the game, the helper action is just totally not even close to what it was supposed to be. I think it might have been a previous version of the card, and they completely scrapped what it did and put something else in. They do have free cards they're giving out at Essen.
Okay. Free card 37?
Yes.
Nice.
However, I expect that to be, for whoever has copies. And the other big thing is, sorry you can't get it right now.
Yeah. I have a few more.
Okay, sure.
I don't feel any pressure in the game. Crops don't rot. People don't eat. Animals don't eat. The market doesn't demand. I don't feel any pressure to deliver first, anything like that. The game is a siesta. So you're saying it's too forgiving again.
Yeah. And this goes back to your whole gateway to heavier games.
Yeah. Yeah, and we played Agricola last weekend. It was the day after we played La Granja, and we were sitting on the back deck, and we're like, we talked about our Agricola game for an hour. Like, we go to this and that, and that didn't happen with La Granja. That stood out to me. I think a couple of things are disjointed in the game and maybe it's just me because I'm a weirdo or whatever, but I can deliver goods from my fields directly to the markets, but I can't sell them from my fields for money. It's kind of weird. They're good enough for delivery. But
I suppose
they're not good enough for a buck.
I could, but see,
it's a grape still. It's an olive. I'm taking it off the plant to deliver it. I'm taking it off the plant. Anyway, what I do in my farm and my income are almost completely disconnected.
How so?
Well, I can be an awesome, excellent farmer, but my income is related to how many farm extensions I built that happen to have the income thing on it.
The revenue, you
right?
Mean. Okay.
So it's you don't get money for deliveries and stuff like that, right? So you can be a badass farmer and get one coin a turn. My income and my actions are not linked, and I wish they were. And I get what they're doing. I don't like that there's not a mulligan rule like there is in Panamax when you roll the revenue dice.
Oh, okay. So if you rolled all sixes.
Well, in our 3-player game, we had 5 1s, pig dice. So everyone said,
a lot of pigs. Hey, selling a lot of pigs.
Guess we're taking pigs.
Huh.
But
okay.
But the mulligan rule in Panamax is really clever, where those 5 dice that were pigs in this game with a similar rule would have rolled down to the 2s and stuff like that, and it offered more choice.
That's an easy fix for a house rule.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
But, I'll be honest, the thought never occurred to me on that because I hadn't seen that. But that makes a valid point.
It's not going to happen often, but
sure.
When it does,
there should be something in there.
Right.
Okay. Or maybe it was just a pig-heavy year.
Maybe it was.
Year of the pig.
The pigs were horny. I have not and will not try this, but I think that Matt and I were talking about this. A powerful strategy, maybe the powerful strategy, is forsake the market buildings and I'm going to stick market barrows in my farm 3 at a time, and I'm just going to bang those out, and I'm going to get 4 to 8 points a turn, bang, 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 while you guys are struggling with 2 and 3 here and there. And I feel like, and I do not have empirical data to support it, but I feel like that's where the big points are. And I think that's a bit of a problem.
And see, I'll be honest, we didn't play this one as much as we normally do, frankly, because you didn't enjoy it that much and you weren't too keen on playing.
There's cool stuff here. It's just not where I'm going to spend my time.
Right.
And don't get me wrong. I don't hate this game.
Right. Well, I don't mean to intimate that you do.
Right.
Just the fact that we have holes in what we think, in what we know, just because we didn't get enough plays in because of the fact that you didn't enjoy. And I'm not going to, hold you over a barrel and be like, damn it, Tony, we're playing this game again. I know you don't like it, but we're playing it again. Not that you don't like it, but you get the idea. So maybe, I mean, I don't have an answer for that. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe. My counterpoint to this is Amanda and I really enjoyed playing
awesome.
this. And so I find this unique in a sense that here we are, episode 10, and it's the first time we've really, truly disagreed on something not named Port Royal.
Which, by the way, is not that great.
Yo, shocker! So is there anything else that you have to say, no, seriously, is there anything else negative-wise to go with it?
Just
not negative, but things you weren't too keen on.
Just to add weight to what you said, an opinion is not necessarily based on fact.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's rock into our summaries of the game. I'll go first, sir. During the conversation, I mentioned think Agricola, think Glory to Rome, think Panamax. But while using similar mechanics, this game falls short of those titles, in my opinion. I think an excellent game is excellent synergy, and just where the whole is greater than the sum of its part. And a game can't just cobble together otherwise excellent mechanics and be expecting excellence. There's only 1,000 of these games made, and that's plenty.
Wow.
There's just far too many more interesting games to be played, and I don't think it's worth the cost on the aftermarket. There you go.
I'll get to my summary in a second.
All right.
I will say that if I were to have to pay $125, $150, having not played this, I probably would. Having played it, I don't think it's worth that much, but I think it's worth standard price.
Right.
Okay.
I remember my thought about it could maybe be a gateway game, and if it gets some more publication, that price comes down in that $50 point. It's certainly worth that to probably a large number of people. The game has an audience. I'm just not in that audience, and that's fine on both sides of that argument.
So my summary, I appreciate new ways to do old things. With the amalgamation of mechanics and personally the seamless way that they integrate, I'm happy to have this in my collection. It'll be a game that Amanda and I break out to play on a weeknight when we want a game that'll get the brain going, but not overtax it. I say that not as a Spielworxx fanboy. No. What? Before I go,
scale of 1 to 4.
No, what?
Well, if you're not saying that as a Spielworxx fanboy, what are you saying that as? Just as a board game fan.
Yeah, all that's right. It. Yeah. Not just, oh my God, I have to have everything Spielworxx. Just right. as a board game fan.
Okay.
I'm happy to have it in my collection, and it's something that Amanda and I will enjoy breaking out. So about our ratings. Pretty simple. 1 to 4, get off the fence. There's no halvesies. There's no nothing like that. A 1 is just get it out of here. I don't ever want to play that again. A 2 is a meh. 3 is, that's a really solid game. I enjoy playing that. And a 4 is stop what you're doing. Go get this game.
Order it now.
Yes. So I have a feeling I know where we're both going to end up at, but your honor, sir.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
The T-box is yours.
I am going to give this game a rating of a 2. I'd be happy to teach it. I'll play it with you if you strong-arm me. I mean,
strong-arm me.
It's not crap. It's just not as interesting as so many other games. But I'll play something else otherwise.
Okay. And that's fair. You don't have to like every game. No. I gave it a 3. Although you bring up some fair counterpoints to it. And like I said, that it's not as tight. It's not as constricting. It's almost too open-ended. Just here, it's not, there aren't as many tense decisions.
Right.
I really, really love the card play in this game. If that wasn't as good as I think it is, then I would also agree with it being a 2. But since I enjoyed that card play so much, I think a 3 is a fair score for me.
Cool.
So there you go. Our first difference of opinion, really, on, that's Le Granja.
All right, let's turn the tables and talk about some other good stuff.
So there's a challenge going on Board Game Geek of a top 20 list of whatever you want to make it, right? Board game related, obviously. So I went ahead, somebody had asked me, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll make my top 20 heavy game geek list. And I posted it in the guild, and there were 1 or 2 definite omissions that I had, but that's simply because I haven't played them.
Sure.
Age of Steam comes to mind. So the feedback's been overwhelmingly pretty positive. So my question for you is, why haven't you done one? Because your list very well is going to be different than mine, because you've only played Dominant Species once. So
I actually have 15 of them written down.
Okay.
I just need to, and I might just have to concede at 15.
Really?
Yeah, but
because I had 60. Now
60.
Hold on. No. I'm saying that I've played ever.
One difference is, like, you've played a lot more 18XX than I and things like that.
But that's only one. That only counted as one.
Yeah, I know, but
But my thing is, I had 60 that may qualify, but it ended up to where maybe 10 or 15 of those were just too late, and I was like, no. Like Colonialism,
See, I'm not
for
even
instance.
including those in the conversation.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I challenge you to put up a geek list.
I accept your challenge.
All right. So speaking of the guild.
Yes.
Come talk, guys. Come speak to us. And it's not just to us, to other guild members. It doesn't have to be Tony and Edward centric. It could be just amongst yourselves. Just, we want to try and get it hopping a little bit more than it is. So come, let's talk heavy games, guys.
Cool. I have a question for you.
Okay.
It's one that I knew the answer to, but I was really surprised.
You knew the answer for you.
I knew the answer for me.
All right.
Of the top.
Okay.
And then I was really surprised with third and fourth place. But here's the question. What designer has the most games in your collection? And I knew Stefan Feld was going to be number one. I own 10 Stefan Feld games.
Wow, really?
Soon to be 13. I own 5 Uwe Rosenberg games. He's in my second place. Soon to be 6. And it could easily be 7 if I really decide to get Mercator. But I was really surprised when I discovered that I have 5 Martin Wallace and 5 Wolfgang Kramer games. And I was thinking, wow, I didn't think I had 5 of Wallace and 5 of Kramer. I didn't know what. I was really kind of shocked.
So you thought you had less?
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting. Like Wallace, I got Brass, Steam, First Train to Nuremberg, which is really kind of an interesting little game. Gettysburg and A Study in Emerald. And
all solid games, by the way.
Yeah, and there's more. I'd really like to try Rise of Empires. That's his Civ building game. Have you heard of that one? It's
heard of it, yeah. Don't own it yet.
Looks interesting. Martin Wallace, man. He's his games are eccentric, but they're brilliant in many levels. What about you? Can you what designer do you think you have the most games from in your collection?
So we're recording this in my library, in my game room, if you will, and there's a wall of games directly behind you. So while you're asking this and you're talking about, Feld and Uwe and everybody, I'm over here looking, kind of eyeing at all the games.
Right.
The only downside is we haven't organized them yet, so there's a little bit here, a little bit there.
If you were to wager a guess.
I would think it would be Stefan Feld. However, it might be Richard Borg.
Oh.
Actually, because of all the Command and Color Ancients
I see a bunch
and
of
Battle of Westeros, and we got rid of Battle Lore, got rid of Memoir 44.
Right.
But
that was here.
I think Richard Borg would be up there. Uwe's in the discussion.
Sure.
Martin Wallace is in the discussion. Stefan Feld's in the discussion. Combat Commander, so Chad Jensen, possibly, because he has Dominant Species and all the Combat Commanders. Okay. He also has Fighting Formations. Interesting. Man. Yeah, I would have automatically thought Feld, but then when I stop and kind of look around and I'm like, oh, and there's that. Oh, yeah. What about maybe Mark Herman?
Oh, the coin?
Yeah. There's
no.
The most recent coin, but there's a plethora of war games that I have over here. Ted Racier. Yeah. I'm going to have to look that up and I'll post it on the guild. Cool. I'm actually really curious. I'm curious what our guild members.
Yeah.
What their number.
I like that you'll post that on the guild. That sounds like maybe a good question.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what top 3, top 5 for everybody. That's interesting. Because, like I said, I would have automatically thought Feld, but maybe not so much.
I think Knizia is the most prolific, right? I mean, but
a lot of his games aren't so hot.
Right. He's lost his edge.
One last thing I wanted to mention here. Today, Columbus Day, which is October 13th, 2014. I wanted to wish my fellow Heroscapers a happy 6th anniversary to the League of Extraordinary Heroscapers. It's kind of a guild, but not a guild. It's just a thread in the Heroscape forums. And it's the guys there. It's a lot of guys from around the world that really dig Heroscape, and it's the 6th year of this.
They're like images of like extreme setups and things like that?
There are some, but it's just kind of everybody kind of has we all have that one thing in common. And it's kind of hey, look at what my kids have done. It's kind of just kind of a friendly meetup little place on BGG that we have that, yeah. And so it's been pretty cool. It's a place you can go and vent. It's a place you can go and talk about things that aren't Heroscape. In fact, Heroscape's very not often brought up. But it is on occasion, but it's a good group of guys. And, yeah, I think that was pretty cool. I wanted to give a little shout out to them.
Cool.
So let's wrap it up.
Let's do so. Let's remind everybody how to contact us. Reach us on Twitter at Heavy Cardboard, Facebook, Heavy Cardboard. Send us an email at heavycardboard@gmail.com. And check out our website, heavycardboard.com.
And if you guys could spare a moment and give us a rating or, maybe even a review on iTunes, it would be greatly appreciated. One last thing before we get out of here.
Yes, sir.
With this being one of those weird months with 5 weeks in it and us publishing our episodes on the first and third Thursday of every month, it's going to be a few weeks till we put another episode out.
Extra week in October.
Right. So it's going to be actually 3 weeks in between. So Tony and I are going to make a point to put out some extra pod blasts in between now and then. So definitely keep an ear out for that. And we'll definitely be firing out various things.
Hey, 10 episodes in the can, my friend.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting. I don't know. I'm pretty proud of what we're building here. I'm glad that the listeners are enjoying it and listening to us yammer every couple weeks.
Well, I mentioned we talked about Agricola after we played Agricola. It's just fun to talk about games.
It is. And I mean, we're no different than y'all listening. We're just two dudes with a microphone.
And we're always talking about the games after we play them.
Yeah. And so it's
we just record them once in a while.
Well,
there's a lot more planning involved.
We do take a few hours of prep, believe it or not. But yeah, no,
these conversations aren't terribly different from after we play a game, we start talking about stuff.
That is true.
It's a lot of fun.
So 10 episodes. Thanks for listening. And, hopefully you guys continue to listen. And next episode, don't be surprised if there's a contest giveaway, possibly for a copy of Panamax.
Right on.
We'll see you guys, I guess, next month. So happy November soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Later.